Have you ever wondered why conversations about women's health rarely include cannabis? I'm Mandi Cruz. I'm a cannabis educator and health advocate with a Master's of Science from the University of Maryland, Baltimore in medical cannabis science and therapeutics. And today, I'm breaking the silence about how cannabis supports women's health, backed by research. Why is it that when we talk about women's health, from menstruation and PMS to childbirth, fibroids, postpartum recovery, and even menopause, no one's talking about cannabis? The truth is, this plant has been quietly helping women manage pain, balance hormones, ease anxiety, and reclaim their bodies in every stage of life. And it's not just one way. There are topicals, tinctures, edibles, and more, each with unique benefits. And if you've ever wondered how cannabis can support your cycle, your uterus, your overall wellness, this video is for you. Before I ever stepped into the medical cannabis industry, I was a birth doula and a childbirth educator. I've attended multiple births and witnessed the raw power of labor and supported women through one of the most transformative moments in their lives. Later, I became a patient care advisor in the medical cannabis industry at dispensaries in Maryland, helping everyone from children to elders in their 90s find relief, support, and clarity through plant medicine. For over 6 years, I watched firsthand how cannabis could change lives, but what I didn't see enough of was how it could change the lives of women specifically. As a mother of 4, I gave birth to all of my children naturally. And with each pregnancy, I felt the weight of misinformation, silence, and fear surrounding cannabis and women's health. I've used cannabis to help manage my pregnancy-related nausea, fatigue, appetite changes, and even the emotional toll postpartum depression anxiety can have. I've used it for chronic pain for Ehlers-Danlos, something that I deal with every single day. And I'm not alone. Women are using cannabis to navigate menopause, manage fibroids and ovarian cysts, and cope with uterine and ovarian cancer, and improve their overall reproductive and emotional well-being. They're turning to cannabis before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and throughout their healing journeys. And that's why I'm here, to break the silence, bring clarity, and advance medical cannabis in women's health. Because women deserve to make informed, empowered decisions about their bodies. And the truth is, the conversation starts right here. One of the biggest problems that we face when it comes to cannabis and women's health is that there's simply not enough clinical research. Why? Because cannabis is still classified as a Schedule I substance at the federal level, right alongside things like heroin. That means researchers face massive legal and financial hurdles to even study its medical potential. And while science lags behind, women, especially pregnant women, are left without clear guidance, stuck between misinformation and criminalization. Here's the reality. Women are using medical cannabis during pregnancy. They're using it to treat real conditions like hyperemesis, nausea, anxiety, insomnia, and chronic pain. But what they're not being told is that even in states with medical cannabis programs, using it while pregnant can result in being flagged by Child Protective Services. There are almost no laws in place to protect these mothers, even when they're acting under medical advice and within state law. The stigma is deep, and it's no accident. Decades of propaganda fueled by big pharma and outdated political agendas have painted cannabis as dangerous, irresponsible, especially for women and parents. But where is the same energy for opioids and antidepressants being prescribed to pregnant women without any question? Where is the same scrutiny for alcohol and tobacco? When I gave birth in the hospital, I was treated like a criminal. The questioning, the tone, the suspicion, I could feel it in every single interaction. But because I spent years advocating for women as a doula and birth educator, I knew how to advocate for myself. I knew my rights, my options, and how to push back. But not every woman has that support. The difference when I gave birth at a natural birth center was night and day, centered on dignity, respect, and informed choice. And it highlighted the massive gap we're dealing with. A gap in healthcare education, a gap in patient rights, and a legislative gap that leaves medical cannabis patients, especially mothers, completely unprotected. Let's talk about the science behind cannabis research and women's health. While research is still evolving, several studies offer insights into how cannabis interacts with the female body during various life stages. Pregnant cannabis use and cognitive development. A comprehensive review published in Frontiers in Psychology analyzed over 1,000 comparisons between children exposed to cannabis in utero and those who were not. The findings indicated that prenatal cannabis exposure alone is not associated with significant cognitive impairments in offspring. Specifically, cognitive performance scores of cannabis-exposed groups overwhelmingly fell within the normal range when compared against normative data adjusted for age and education. Reasons for cannabis use during pregnancy. According to data from the CDC's Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System, that's PRAMS, approximately 4.2% of women reported using cannabis during pregnancy. The most common reasons were cited to relieve stress or anxiety at 81%, nausea or vomiting at 77%, and pain at 55%. These statistics underscore the need for informed discussions between patients and healthcare providers regarding cannabis use during pregnancy. The frequency of use and birth outcomes. It is important to note that frequency of cannabis use during pregnancy may impact birth outcomes. A study found that high-frequency cannabis use was associated with an increased risk of low birth weight deliveries regardless of cigarette use. This highlights the necessity for healthcare providers to implement recommended substance use screenings and provide evidence-based counseling to help pregnant women make informed decisions. It is also important to note that a knowledge of the variety of methods of consumption should be known by OBGYN, midwives, or whoever is dealing with pregnant women so that they can inform pregnant women, if they are medical cannabis patients, on the variety of methods that are available that don't involve combustion. Legal and social implications. In Maryland, for instance, if a newborn is identified as substance exposed, healthcare providers are mandated to notify the local Department of Social Services. This can lead to assessments and interventions by CPS, even in cases where cannabis is being used only for medicinal purposes and within the state law. Such policies can deter women from seeking necessary medical advice or disclosing the use of cannabis, potentially compromising both maternal and infant health. Let's bust some of the most persistent myths about cannabis, especially when it comes to women's health, parenting, and productivity. Myth number 1, cannabis makes you lazy. This stereotype ignores the incredible range of cannabis strains and formulations. Not every product makes you sleepy or lethargic. In fact, many cultivars and terpene profiles, like those high in limonene or pinene, can be energizing, uplifting, and mentally clarifying. Today's market offers low THC, high CBD, and balanced microdosing options that are designed for function, not sedation. As a mom of 4, a business owner, and someone living with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I've used cannabis products that help me stay focused, reduce inflammation, and keep up with my life's demands without losing productivity. I definitely couldn't use cannabis if it made me lazy. Myth number 2, you can't use cannabis while breastfeeding. This is one of the most controversial and misunderstood areas. The truth is, breastfeeding is often discouraged entirely just because a mother is a medical cannabis patient, even when she is using her medicine responsibly, with guidance, and for real conditions like postpartum depression, anxiety, or chronic pain. Meanwhile, mothers on prescription opioids, SSRIs, benzodiazepines are often not discouraged from nursing, even though these substances carry significant risks to the infant. The stigma against cannabis is rooted in politics, not science. Another myth is that cannabis has to be smoked to work. That is just not true. There are smoke-free, discreet options like tinctures, edible capsules, tablets, patches, and vaporizers. These methods offer consistent, low-dosage symptom relief without the odor or respiratory effects of combustion. Many women microdose throughout the day to manage symptoms while remaining fully alert and engaged. Let's change the narrative. In order to truly change the stigma, we need legal reform, especially when it comes to protecting parents who use medical cannabis. One organization, the Family Law and Cannabis Alliance, proposes what is known as the gold standard parents' protective language. It states, neither the presence of cannabinoid components or metabolites in a person's bodily fluid, nor conduct related to use of cannabis by a custodial or non-custodial family, grandparent, pregnant woman, legal guardian, or other person charged with the well-being of a child shall form the sole or primary basis for any action or proceeding by a child welfare agent or in a family or court. This language should be the baseline for progressive medical cannabis laws. It acknowledges that safe, responsible cannabis use, especially when it improves a parent's health and quality of life, should never be used as a weapon against the family. Now that we've uncovered the myths and examined some of the science, it's time to talk about what we can do. Because it isn't just about cannabis, it's about justice, health equity, and protecting families. In one local study of 715 pregnant women, 133 were reported to authorities after birth for substance use. And here's what's disturbing. Even though cannabis use were similar among Black and white women, Black women were reported at nearly 10 times the rate. I'd love to see the statistics on Hispanic women as well. Poor women were also disproportionately targeted. At the same time, Black mothers face a maternal mortality rate 2.9 times higher than the national average. And despite the fear-based messaging, studies show no significant difference in cognitive outcomes between babies exposed to cannabis in utero and those who weren't. So the question is, why are cannabis-certified moms still being discriminated against? Why are they shamed, reported, and separated from their babies just for being medical patients? Here's how we fight back. Number one, we need to raise some awareness. Contact the media, write to the Baltimore Sun, reach out to Angela Roberts or Giacomo Bologna, or call WJZ CBS News in Baltimore and share what's happening to mothers in our state. Number two, use social media strategically. Start a campaign, share the stats, tell your story. Just be careful with cannabis language. Posts can be taken down, so use coded words when needed to protect your message. Number three, push for parent protective language in law. Advocate for legal language that clearly states a positive cannabis test alone cannot justify welfare action from Child Protective Services. This is the gold standard from the Family Law and Cannabinoids Alliance, and Maryland doesn't have it yet. Number four, demand accountability for our leaders. Call the Maryland Cannabis Administration, email the Attorney General's office, ask them why certified patients, especially pregnant ones, are being criminalized instead of protected. Number five, partner with allies. Organizations like Postpartum Support International and National Birth Equity Collaborative are already fighting for mothers' rights. Team up, attend their events, share your vision. Let's bring cannabis patient protections into the conversation too. And number six is finally keep the conversation going. Whether it's a social services meeting, a workshop, a birth worker panel, speak up. Share real stories. Show how current policies force discrimination by hospitals, social workers, and courts. We can change this. We must change this. Because no mother should be punished for choosing to treat her body with a certified medical therapy. Because our birth spaces deserve protection. Because our babies deserve to start life with their mother's arms around them, not a system tearing them apart. Your voice, your story, your power. Let's change the narrative one birth at a time.
For access to the full article on moms and cannabis, visit www.mandicruzmedia.com/moms and cannabis.